GT Open roared back into life yesterday to kick off its 2026 season, 20 years on from the inaugural campaign, and did so with a bang. An epic race around the Algarve circuit that was won by ZRS Motorsport on their GT3 debut. A formidable start for a team that has stepped up from GT Cup competition, and now our attention is turned towards the slightly shorter race 2, 60 minutes of racing to come. And after a podium finish yesterday, it is Greystone GT who have taken top honours in qualifying 2. Dean McDonald, the McLaren factory driver, putting the 720S on top ahead of Yannick Mettler in the Pro-Am Carbahn Raceworks by SBS Mercedes. And there is a lot of competition behind. One of the stars of qualifying was from ZRS Motorsport, Pietro Armani, his first ever GT3 qualifying, only a few tenths away from pole and putting it on the second row of the grid. Plenty to look out for over the next hour of racing. It's Chris Stevens and George Morgan back again in the commentary box. George, very much looking forward to this one. First race where we have to consider the handicaps. But first of all, what an effort from Dean McDonald in qualifying.
Absolutely right. And obviously, pastures that we have seen before from Greystone GT, of course, but coming into Portimao last year. They were very, very vibrant at the start of the International GT Open, that campaign. It went slightly awry, though, as we moved into Spa-Francorchamps and in consequent races afterwards. Yannick Mettler, who was very, very quick through free practice coming into the weekend, back again on the front row. It's been a very solid start for the Carbahn by SBS. We're very unfortunate to miss out on the Pro-Am race win yesterday. Dominic Baumann, furiously quick, back behind the wheel alongside Marcelo Ramirez. We'll see whether they can capitalise off this start as well. But it's all about ZRS. That win yesterday was sensational. Armani, who came in out of single-seater racing, he arrived to the GT Cup Europe last year, very nearly taking that championship success as well after a flurry of great results last season, but now aligned with Alex Fontano, who highly rates this young man, and he's proving it now here in amongst top-class competition.
Yes, we're wondering why Alex Fontana was so excited about Pietro Armani, and don't get me wrong, we expected him to be good, but I don't think we expected him to be quite this good.
No.
Right on the pace immediately. I'm sure there has been a decent amount of testing. I know they haven't had the car for a very long time. It's not like they've spent 4 months doing nothing but miles, but the 20-year-old from Isio in Italy has been very impressive in his first weekend of GT3 competition alongside Alex Fontana, the gold-rated driver. Just behind that, we do have a fair number of the Pro-Am cars inside the top 10, 5 of them, in fact. And so that could play an interesting element in the first part of the race initially when the pros are mixing it up with the other pro cars. But once they hand over to their AM drivers, then that will allow the pro cars to end up fighting their way back through. Speaking of good debuts, Fark Auto Tech also victorious on debut in the Pro-Am category for Alexander Fark and Alexander Schwarzer, the German-Mexican bronze driver alongside his Swiss pro who have stepped up from GT Masters competition for 2026. Penny for the thoughts of Elite Motorsports, struggling for pace this weekend and not quite up there with the other Ferrari contenders. Although when you look at it alongside Thomas Neubauer, Ferrari factory driver, it doesn't look quite so bad. But yesterday, Tommaso Mosca was fighting for the overall pole. Christian Korzanowski, our AM pole sitter for Olymp Motorsports. Olymp running 2 Ferraris this season. One the Evo specification and one the old car. Good to see the guys and girls on the grid enjoying our new drone shots as well. That was a look at Rafael Duran, who makes his GT Open debut, his first full GT3 campaign for the 51 car.
Yeah, Charles Bateman, after a 10-year absence, returning to the GT fold as well through the International GT Open. We also welcome back ISR Audi with Libor Malotta alongside Philip Salicado, who's going to take the opening stint in this race. Welcome back Oliver Webb. This car did not feature at all yesterday. Of course, Andre Borodin alongside him once again this campaign in the McLaren 720S GT3.
But clearly difficulties in qualifying because we'd expect Oliver Webb to be right up there with the top honours. So some work for the Briton to do before handing over to Andre Borodin.
Absolutely, and just witnessed Phil Barron's Barron Motorsport back again with Lewandowski. They had a strong day yesterday as well. Gaylord Osman steps in alongside Marcello Hahn at Blauer Motorsport, of course. Usually we see Alam Kader behind the wheel of the Blauer Motorsport machine, but in the Ferrari 296, it is Gaylord Osman who is in the car. And a slightly different look for Santalok this season, of course. Michael Blanchimont doing the opening stint in a green Audi R8 LMS, and we will be seeing Jim Pla as well when the driver change period comes to an end. Also had a very blossoming career in single-seaters, racing against the likes of Nico Rosberg. Serwin Mazur had a great day yesterday as well. He's back again and looking for some serious success. And Joel Monegro Reyes, who makes up yet another part of the FAC Auto team. They had a Autosport team. They had a great start to their season, much like the sister car, and Piotr Vera in the Aston Martin for Goodspeed.
Yes, Goodspeed. Piotr Vera running solo for this weekend. His teammate for the season, Thomas Magdash, will hopefully be joining us from Spa, but that pair coached by Dan Arrow. Dynamic GT, Philip Sager, one of the co-owners of the Dynamic team, joining us for a first full season of GT Open. They've made wildcards over the years, but their first full season campaign. It's Christian Engelhardt, the pro in that car. As you can see, a great grid of various manufacturers, 7 manufacturers represented on the field, and there'll be even more at Spa, with some of our full season entries a little bit delayed to the grid owing to some car deliveries and, of course, some guest entries for Spa, which will be the 500-kilometer race.
From one Fontana to another, Angelo Fontana driving the ASF 917 Porsche over the far left in all green. And then we have this stunning liveried Mercedes-AMG GT3 for Alfredo Hernandez, who unfortunately got beached into the gravel yesterday.
Yeah, contact with Tommaso Mosca, so hopefully the race will run a little bit smoother for the Manol-sponsored team. Hernandez running solo. Let's look back at yesterday. It was Fontana versus Mosca on the front row of the grid. Porsche versus Ferrari. Fontana just held the advantage going into Primera, but Mosca was able to get the jump into turn 3 and pass Fontana for the lead of the race as Carol Bash led the Pro-Am contingent behind them. But dramas for Mosca just a couple of laps later. Left rear puncture for the Italian, and that puts him well out of contention. The grid was shuffled up. We had the 2 Pro-Am leaders, Marcin Jedlinski and Michael Blanchimont, fighting out of the pits, with the elite car also showing its nose and disrupting the battle somewhat as Blanchimont took the lead on the road. There were plenty of penalties that we had to try and factor into that particular battle. This was one of them. Yannick Mettler into the back of Thomas Neubauer. He picked up a 5-second penalty for that. But Pietro Armani in the second half of the race was unperturbed, and it was a victory on debut for ZRS Motorsport and for Pietro Armani alongside Alex Fontana. A dream start to 2026. It's time to go racing once again. 60 minutes of action to come. Here's how they line up. It's Dean McDonald, the McLaren factory driver for Greystone, on pole position alongside the SBS of Yannick Mettler. Second row of the grid is Team Motorpark's Dominic Baumann alongside yesterday's race winner, Pietro Armani. Third row of the grid is James Kell for Track Focused in the McLaren. And then Christian Mansell, who finished second on his GT Open debut yesterday in the second of the Team Motorpark cars. Then it is Dragon Racing's Axel Jeffries alongside Vincent Abril for AF Corse in the 55. Alexander Fack, yesterday's Pro-Am winner, alongside Tom Empson in the elite Ferrari. Just outside the top 10, Thomas Neubauer for AF Corse, and then the AM pole sitter, Christian Korzanowski. Rafael Duran in the 51 starts 13th alongside Charles Bateman, the top bronze driver in the Pro-Am category. Philippe Salacada for Team ISR, and then Ollie Webb for Greystone with work to do from 16th. Adrian Lewandowski, yesterday's AM winner for Barron Motorsport, starts alongside Gaylord Osman, and then Michael Blanchimont for Santalok alongside Serwin Mazur from Sendam Racing. Joel Monegro was second on debut yesterday for FAC Auto Tech. He starts alongside the Goodspeed racing car of Piotr Vera, and comes Marcin Jedlinski from Olymp Philippe Saga from Dynamic in 23rd and 24th, Angelo Fontana from AF Motorsport, and Alfredo Hernandez rounds out a 26-car grid for the Grupo Prom racing team. Formation lap underway, 60 minutes of racing, the driver change window to open 24 minutes into the race if we don't get a safety car. George, there's an awful lot to look out for in this one.
Yeah, I think in comparison to, or in contrast to yesterday, obviously Dean McDonald is going to have clean air. When he had his second stint, he was stuck behind Christian Mansell, who put in a wonderful defensive display. Obviously, Christian got a chance to speak to him earlier on. He was delighted with the qualifying performance this morning, and certainly coming into a full GT3 campaign such as this, he is still finding his feet. There is definitely more to come from the Aussie, and he is well positioned, and obviously Maxi Gertz will be stepping in when that driver change window opens up. Really impressed with James Kell's effort in qualifying as well this morning to go 5th fastest overall. Of course, he is in Pro-Am class. He's 2nd in the Pro-Am class as well, owing to Yannick Mettler being so quick this weekend, obviously following suit from his miraculous work through the course of free practice. And they were so, well, they were happy, don't get me wrong, to get the Pro-Am P2, but you just know that first ever class race win, it would have meant oh so much to Dexter Muller and both Yannick Mettler as well. Dominic Baumann is going to be a serious threat. Obviously, remember, Marcelo Ramirez will be stepping in as well for the second stint, but all eyes on the 911 Porsche ZRS in their debut season in this series. Pietro Armani lighting the screens up out of single-seaters, jumping into Porsches last season, now a fully fledged GT3 driver alongside the very talented Alex Fontana. Can they go back-to-back? It's going to be a stiff task, owing to the handicap that they will have to serve.
Yeah, it will be 10 seconds as a result of the victory yesterday. Also 10 seconds for the Fark Autotech and Baron cars that were victorious yesterday. 5 seconds for the cars that finished second in each of the classes. So the cars assume the 2x2 formation. Dean McDonald in the green and black McLaren will be on driver's right, so the inside line when they get into the first corner at Primera. Pensive faces in the Greystone garage. I'm sure they felt they could have won yesterday, or at least had a go at second place, but now they are starting on pole position for race 2 here in the Algarve.
Yeah, taking the turn downhill through the Galp corner. Dean McDonald lining up on the far right, and which will become the left as we're looking at it. But keep your eyes peeled on Yannick Mettler. He is still furiously quick. Obviously, had an unfortunate coming together with Thomas Neubauer yesterday.
So the safety car exits stage right. We wait for the lights to be extinguished. 60 minutes of racing to come in the International GT Open here in the Algarve. Spaced out very nicely as the cars make their way down the start-finish straight. We're racing in Portimao once again. Good start there from Dean McDonald, very closely followed by Yannick Mettler. He's alongside the McLaren going into the first corner, but the advantage will be Dean McDonald's when they get into the first corner as James Kell tries to go around the outside for third position. He's already made up one place. He's trying to make another. He's side by side with Dominic Baumann in the Team Motorpark Mercedes. He didn't quite manage to make that move stick. Got a little shove as he tried to come through turn 4, but he's usurped Pietro Armani straight away. Very clean start. Unlike yesterday, there were a couple of casualties by the time they got to turn 4. Seems like everybody's made it safely through. Now the big stop into the Torre Vip hairpin as Vincent Abril tries to have a run around the outside of Pietro Armani as well. On board here with Alexander Fark, who's got the Elite Motorsport Ferrari just in front of him. And side by side through 7 and 8. That's very brave indeed with the AM leader, Christian Korzanowski. And he's got Thomas Neubauer for pretty close company through there as well.
Yeah, very nice little look there from Axel Jeffries, very early finding the avenue for a move as well. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Thomas Neubauer trying to keep Christian Korzanowski at bay. And there you can see Pietro Armani, who's taking the start of this race as well, trying to feather his throttle and break ahead, because Axel Jeffries hot on his heels as they now climb the hill and eventually into the braking zone. Christian Mansell got slightly hoovered up at the very start. Of course, Vincent Abril then peppering in front of him. Wasn't quite the right angle at the very start for poor Christian. Wasn't able to take a wider line and therefore carry the momentum through turn 2. Got caught rather shallow, but he is still going in P6. James Kell, though, what a start, up into P4, and now on the tail of Dominic Baumann, who also had a fairly decent start. But it's Dean McDonald leading the way now as we now move on to lap 2. Plenty of time left as well for overtakes to be made. Now 60 minutes of racing in total as they fly into the first corner at Primera.
So difficult first lap for Pietro Armani. He's gone from 4th down to 7th. It's his first ever start in a GT3 car. And he's found out the hard way how we do things in GT3 as Alexander Fak is alongside Christian Korsanowski fighting for 10th position overall. Tries to get the up and under down there. And that looks like it's side by side for the lead. Yes, Yannick Mettler going for the lead on Dean McDonald going into the Tora VIP hairpin. Yannick Mettler wasting no time. He's in a Pro-Am car, but he wants that clean air.
They've been quick all weekend. Yannick Mettler, like we said, free practice 1. They laid down the benchmark and they arrived back as well in qualifying this morning with Mettler on the front row after nearly gaining the Pro-Am win. Christian Korsanowski getting a bent out of shape as well. He's going wheel to wheel here with Tom Empson as they climb over the crest as well. Look at this from Ollie Webb. He's on the move as well after qualifying not necessarily as you would necessarily expect, but nevertheless, he is currently holding back the force of Alexander Fak and holding on to 11th place as well. There's Mansell, who is also trying to hold on to 6th place, trying to close to the back of Vincent Abril. That's easier said than done because Abril is peppering the rear of James Kell and in turn Dominic Baumann.
Yeah, Ollie Webb's made up 6 places from his starting position. We said he had work to do, and he is going to work right now. So up into the top 10 now in the second of the Greystone cars. I do wonder what happened to Dean McDonald, though, from the lead. Did he make a little mistake out of turn 4, or was Yannick Mettler just that much quicker than the 33? At the end of lap number 2, it is now Yannick Mettler who leads the way in the Carl Barn Raceworks by SBS Mercedes, and he is building an advantage already, more than 0.8 of a second with, what, 2/3 of a lap of clean air. So he's going gun-ho at the moment. Now we wonder if Dominic Baumann may try and make a move on the McLaren.
Yeah, only 4/10 away from McDonald's 720S. Once again, Tom Empson side by side with Korsanowski, the 2 Ferraris. Going at it, they were side by side all the way down the straight, leading into the Primera corner, and now it is Tom Empson ahead of Korsanowski and into P12. He'll in turn then be chasing Alexander Fak and try and move into the top 10 as well. That is the mission for Elite Motorsport, who had such a breakthrough year last year alongside Tom Leben. That win at Hungaroring really building on the promise from that initial visit to this very circuit last year in the Ferrari 296. Of course, both drivers relatively young, have had, you know, only youthful careers so far in GT3. Of course, Tom Leben, a GT4 European Series champion. And of course, out of single-seater racing, where he competed in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. As they now descend downhill, they'll turn to the left as well. Mansell still trying to covet at the back of Vincent Abril. Then further back, Pietro Armani trying to gain back the places that were lost, but do not count the young man out. He is in turn now being closed down by a very, very talented Axel Jeffries as part of Dragon Racing, as now they fly through the next left-hander. There you can see the combination of Duran and Mosca. Duran behind the wheel for the start of this race, but he in turn being challenged by Gaelid Osman in the AM class Blau Motorsport Ferrari.
So on board here with Rafael Duran, who does have that ISR Audi just in front of him. Duran, in his first season of GT3 competition, still very new to car racing in general, is the Spanish-American Brazilian who's already lived halfway around the world, it seems. Has moved around a lot and spends a lot of time in Pennsylvania and in Madrid. He's doing his various studies at UPenn.
Had a few cameos last season. He took part in the Ferrari Challenge, as well as Italian GT as well, 24-hour series in the Middle East as well. But in terms of a full European campaign, yes, he certainly is his first ticket. Fak managed to get past Ollie Webb.
Yeah, that's returning the serve, isn't it?
Yeah, back into P10 he goes. So Ollie Webb now dropping back down to P11, but that doesn't take away the fact that Webb has been on a charge since this race got underway.
So they're both pro drivers in their Pro-Am cars. Tom Empson struggling to get around them as well. He's actually lost a couple of places since the start of the race. Down in 12th at the moment is the elite car, face full of Greystone McLaren. Now, Ollie Webb, who will be primarily racing in this championship this year with a few adventures in historic racing, which I know he likes to do. And hopefully this year, no gear stick dramas down the Mistral. For anybody's seen that video of him very casually working on it, heading down the Mistral, his gear stick comes out and he just nonchalantly plops it back into place and like, is that working? Yep, got drive now. Not heading towards the fastest corner on the racetrack or anything like that. 53 minutes left to go in the race, and Yannick Mettler had done the fastest lap of the race, but Dean McDonald has just returned the serve, actually. Not by much, only about 6/100ths of a second between them. The gap stabilizing at around 8/10 of a second. So McDonald's still got some raw speed in that car for sure. It's very interesting. We've got 2 Mercs and 2 McLarens at the head of this field right now, and we can see the launch from James Kell immediately diving in between 2 cars. So I think he dispatched of Armani pretty quickly, yes, on the inside, and then had a crack at Baumann around the outside. But you've got to get out pretty early in the morning to pull that kind of move off on a driver of Baumann's caliber. This is how Alexander Fak saw the start. Lovely big space in front of him that disappears very quickly with Thomas Neubauer, and a little bump and shuffle there from Tom Empson in the elite car as well. So there was a little bit of argy-bargy through the first couple of corners, but nothing too dramatic. We've still got all 26 cars running out there on the circuit, and no yellow flags yet either, and seemingly no debris around the track. So it's all going very smoothly at the moment, George.
It's going very well,
said
Chris.
Confidently.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the top 9 are all within a second of each other at the moment, so that's very promising. The gap that we are seeing is all the way down in P10, 2.5 seconds between Alexander Fak and Thomas Neubauer at the moment. So the top 9 all very condensed together. I will say this, Neubauer now peppering in the purple sectors inside the middle. Axel Jeffries was doing that on the previous lap as well in his bid to try and get past the ZRS of Pietro Armani. There they are now, tackling the gut corner. In behind Thomas Neubauer, getting closer and closer, and obviously looking to perhaps open a few avenues himself. It's going to be very hard against the Ferrari of Axel Jeffries to make that happen. Of course, in that pre-Evo car, not the Evo build that they had coming into the weekend, because that one unfortunately had an unceremonious dispatch in free practice. But 51 minutes to go. Mettler 7/10 to the good ahead of Dean McDonald, but McDonald fastest over the last lap.
Yeah, so another fastest lap of the race from Dean McDonald. Took a 10th out of Yannick Mettler that time around, so the gap now just under 3/4 of a second. This is going to be a real tit-for-tat moment. I know Dean McDonald got a really good look at the back of a Mercedes for most of the race yesterday as he was trying to get around Christian Mansell.
Frustration.
It was very frustrating. I can understand why, because the Mercedes was so good through the final corner, and you get so much aero wash through there as well, that it didn't matter how quick Dean McDonald was around the rest of the lap. He could not get close enough to him on the start and finish straight for love nor money.
It's the characteristic of that Gulf corner, though. Obviously, Christian Mansell was able to use that burly Mercedes and its power heading down the long straight. He was able to fend off the approach of Dean McDonald. Remember, a factory driver, and I said to Christian Mansell earlier on, I said, that was some defence that you managed to pull off yesterday. And he said, yeah, I had no idea that Dean McDonald was a McLaren factory driver. So I think he was absolutely thrilled with that performance. And obviously, bear in mind, Mansell, very new to the GT3 scene, had a few cameo appearances over the winter, but this is a full-on European stint that he's going to be doing this year. So, you know, definitely in the process of selling himself for maybe his own factory drive in the future.
It's so funny hearing that. I didn't realise that Dean McDonald was a factory driver. You know, he's clearly just like so zoned in on what he's been doing. He hasn't actually learnt the landscape yet, which is
he spent a lot of time. He spent a lot of time in a junior single-seater paddock, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And then going up the feeder series of FIA Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2. So this obviously is a very different complexion as opposed to that side of the sport.
Another 10th of a second taken out of Yannick Mettler's lead last time around by Dean McDonald, but the fastest of the leading cars last time around was Dominic Baumann. 6 seconds covers the top 8 at the moment, which is extraordinary. And how many different manufacturers are going there? You've got Mercedes, you've got McLaren, you've got Ferrari, you've got Porsche in there as well. All the way down to Axel Jeffries in 8th position, who's fending off another Ferrari factory driver in the form of Thomas Neubauer at the moment. So they're doing an incredible job out there. But this lead battle, absolutely enthralling as it stands. So Yannick Mettler going for a 4th class victory alongside Dexter Muller, as he very nearly took yesterday with his bronze driver in the car barn by SBS Mercedes. But did get caught up that incident with Thomas Neubauer. He was deemed to be at fault for it, picked up a 5-second penalty, and then there was a second penalty for an infringement during their pit stop as well. So there's a bit of rust, I think, on some of these teams, because there were some clumsy penalties that were handed out yesterday. Look at McDonald closing up through here. Let's see what the performance through the last corner is like, because yesterday we would see McDonald right on the back of a Mercedes, and then by the time they got through the last corner, that gap just stretched and stretched and stretched, and we're seeing the same thing again right now. McDonald is nowhere near in a position to overtake. He was 3/10 behind Mettler at the last timing split, and when they get over the line, the gap has grown to 0.6 of a second. They are lapping almost identically to the 100th right now.
Yeah, very, very strong so far for Yannick Mettler. You see the gap still maintaining, though, at around 6.5 of a second. There's Thomas Neubauer, who will be handing over to Yaroslav Vasalo from Ukraine. So stepping in from single-seater racing into GT3 for the first time, much like Christian Mansell. He represented Santalot Racing, who, of course, do have a car in this championship as well. We have spoken to Sebastian as part of the paddock as well for Santalot. There is Timo Rumpf, Kyle, who will be pensively watching on as Christian Mansell bids to pull together a landmark weekend in this championship. They had a good day yesterday, and obviously looking for another positive result here today. Obviously starting from 6th on the grid, Mansell was very happy with the qualifying. Pietro Armani as well, another young star. Once again, much like last year where we were talking about the junior drivers, again this year is showing that we are building new prospects for the future, and the future of GT racing is in definitely very good hands.
And although Armani, he lost a lot of places at the start, his pace is absolutely solid.
Electric,
he's on the back of Mansell, he's on the back of Abril, he's keeping Axel Jeffries at bay, who's a very experienced driver and multiple champion in likes of the European Le Mans Series and Super Trofeo as well. And so the pace is absolutely there. I think what we saw at the start is just, well, inexperience, and that's absolutely fair to say.
It's the rite of passage, Chris.
Yes, rite of passage. And they're just spreading out a little bit there. James Cowell doing a cracking job, and it's funny, we said this in qualifying, but we've never seen Dean McDonald and James Cowell on the racetrack together because they've been teammates for the past 2 seasons.
Well, 2 seasons, yeah.
So quite interesting to see, and James back in, I guess, more familiar territory, as we've got side-by-side Thomas Neubauer making the move on Axel Jeffries. It's Ferrari on Ferrari, but it's AF Corsa versus Dragon Racing, and it is the factory driver who manages to go through into the first corner, and that is for 8th position. Alexander Fack on the back of them as well in the Pro-Am Porsche, but not quite close enough to take advantage just yet, and it looks like Neubauer has consolidated that maneuver coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, Neubauer, of course, an endurance specialist, but also over a sprint format, very, very dangerous and talented. And now showing it once again with a move on Axel Jeffries. Jeffries, no slouch either. Will, of course, be handing over to Kalila Letlarka when the timer ticks in towards our driver change window. As they now look to send it full-on uphill. Once again, Alexander Pack getting nice and close to the back of Axel Jeffries, just turning that wheel to find the grip, heading out of Samson corner, and now Craig Jones awaits before they head uphill through towards Portimao corner itself, where they'll meet that blind right-hander and the descent downhill in what is a roller coaster section of circuit that then sends you upwards towards the very heavy braking zoned left-hander before then meeting Sargray and then down in towards Gulf Bend. At the moment, though, Mettler holding his own, the top 2 spreading out. Dominic Baumann 1.2 back from Dean McDonald. James Kell 1.3. He's in a little bit of no man's land at the moment is the track-focused McLaren, but they'll be absolutely thrilled with this start to the race that they have had. It's currently 2 McLarens and 2 Mercedes inside the top 4, and they're representing in both classes of Pro and indeed Pro-Am as well. Ollie Webb now also looking to close up onto the top 10 as well. At the moment, he's still inside 2 seconds, but ideally needs to get a lot closer than that to give themselves a chance in Pro-Am.
8 minutes until the pit lane opens for duty. A lead gap still hovering. I'm staggered by the pace at the front. Last time around, Mettler 42.9, McDonald 42.9, Baumann 42.9. Kell, can you guess what he did?
What did Kell do?
42.9.
42.9?
Yeah.
Would you believe it?
Incredible pace at the front of the field. So evenly
And that's 3 tenths quicker than Abril as well, really. 2 to 3 tenths.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what Abril was doing on that last lap. He did lose a little bit of time. The gap 1.8 to the leading 4.
And a personal best for Christian Mansell.
Yeah, so 44 minutes on the clock. That's Christian Kozlowski, still our AM leader in 13th position overall. Galad Osman and Adrian Lewandowski, Lewandowski, I should say, sorry, have swapped places since the start of the race. So it's the AF Corsa run Blau car ahead of the Baron car that won yesterday. Of course, James Kell and Vincent Abril, second and third in the Pro-Am standings as well. So actually that gap between the two of them we were just talking about will be quite important later for when James hands over to his father, Darren. As I say, in that more familiar territory, they were racing in the UK together with the track-focused squads who are in their first season of European competition as well.
They're building a pretty picture here at Carbahn and SPS at the moment in this race.
Aren't they just?
Because at the moment, obviously, bearing in mind that it will be James Call's father who will step in at track focus, Vincent Abril handing over to Lauren de Meus, and obviously Axel Jeffries handing over to Kalila Letlarka. You know, that's a series of AM drivers that will be stepping in. And bear in mind, you sort of favour the driver of the AM side of the Pro-Am class, probably the one that has committed to the championship over more years. And Dexter Muller, you're not going to find anyone more experienced than him in this championship.
It's true.
And they've only got to serve 5 seconds additional, and it was a purple final sector again from Yannick Mettler over the last lap.
Well, his gap to Abril is 5 seconds, so that could be key later on.
Well, is this Yannick trying to mitigate the handicap? Clearly
absolutely. Because Darren's first race at this track was yesterday. Lauren de Meus has done several races, of course, but we'll see how he gets on. Could be one for the Funk squad again, although they've got to take 10 seconds. But of course, then you end up looking at the guys who are not right at the front in Pro-Am because they've got their AM driver in now. So Charles Bateman is the top bronze driver in that category at the moment and is 1.2 seconds ahead of Philippe Salacada. And Michael Blanchemont, there's quite a few cars between them, though. So we'll see, especially because if there's a safety car in the second half of the race, that
would
throws
change
everything. Throws everything out. If you start to be a bronze driver and you get a safety car in the second half of the race, you are in a golden position.
Yeah, absolutely.
So still McDonald is just ebbing and flowing to the back of Mettler's car. The gap half a second just under when they went through the last timing split going into turn 12. It grows again to 0.6 of a second when they come across the timing line. But again, McDonald able to take a couple of tenths of a second out of Mettler, but critically the gap growing to his Pro-Am rivals. And you've got to say that Mettler going for that maneuver on the second lap of the race and getting himself some clean air is definitely doing wonders for him at the moment.
The one saving grace they do have, though, at Greystone McLaren is the fact that they're not shackled by the handicap.
See, this is the thing. They know that they're going to jump this car in the pit lane anyway.
Regardless.
So there's no point in McDonald overworking the tyres and risking damaging the car to try and get around him.
You're better off leaving Zach Meakin with a good foundation.
And Zach Meakin is looking very, very strong this weekend. Another driver who's growing in confidence now in his second year of GT3 racing. Yes, he got a bit roughed up at the start and on the restart yesterday, but, you know, like we were talking about with Pietro Armani, that's just experience.
Absolutely.
And certainly there's nothing wrong with Meakin's speed behind the wheel, as he proved yesterday with a great effort in qualifying, setting identical times to Tommaso Mosca, which means you're doing something right.
It furthers the point that Zach Meakin, in Dean McDonald, he's the teammate that he needs, you know, as far as this season is concerned. Obviously, it was great to have him with Mikey Porter last year, but this offers him something perhaps a little bit different with all the experience that Dean has totaled up over his time in GT3 racing. He's got a grand catalogue behind him, really spearheading the McLaren factory position over GT3 and sports cars. And they're having a very successful start to the year, McLaren. You've got to say that. They're having a lot of fun. They were there in Paul Ricard last week, where obviously Tom Fleming and Marvin, we saw Tom Fleming and Marvin Kirchhofer last year, and they delivered at Hockenheim Ring as well. So, yeah, we look forward to seeing how Zach Meakin gets on in the second half of this race. Obviously, at the moment, Mettler is still gapping McDonald at the moment. It's now extended to 0.9 of a second. Over the last lap, Mettler was purple in that final sector, leading to that 1:42.807, and that is approximately 2.5 plus tenths, nearly 3 tenths quicker than Dean McDonald over that last lap.
Like I said, the gap keeps ebbing and flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's now up to 0.9 of a second as cars make their way into Tora VIP. Pietro Armani still sitting nicely between Neubauer and Mansell. It's good company to be in. And Mansell taking to GT3 racing like a duck to water after a not so much an intense period of preparation through the traditional off-season with the Middle Eastern races. but certainly in good company. Rafael Duran equally got a bit roughed up at the start, in 16th place at the moment, and just in front of Khalid Osman, who's second in the AM category at the moment, but is a silver class driver. If you have a silver class driver over the age of 40, and you are allowed to compete in the AM category with a handicap. So they take 15 seconds of handicap, regardless of where they finish. And it was at third place for them in that category yesterday. So those two AF Corsa cars running pretty closely together at the moment.
It's a very compelling fight happening between Mansell and Armani at the moment. Those are two drivers that were racing at the same level in F3 cars back in 2022. Mansell, of course, in the Euro Formula Open Championship was trying to contest against Oliver Goethe and Vladislav Lomko. And then aside from that, you have Pietro Armani, who was racing for ART in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Of course, the same year, Dino Boganovic was in it. Gabriel Bortoletto, who is, of course, now a Formula One driver at the same time. So, you know, these are two drivers that are actively working away in their blossoming GT3 careers and giving us some really good feedback in terms of their prowess in amongst these cars. Still sat inside the top 10 and make that the top 7 right now, so really strong display.
Pit lane should be open for business by the end of this lap, in fact. Now, all of those guys at the head of the field, they're not going to come in, because why would they? They've got their quick driver in at the moment. So possibly the first car you'll see in, from 14th position downwards, I would suggest, is where you're going to see the pit lane activity come into play. Because everyone else has got their quick driver in at the moment. So they'll want to stretch this as much as possible, unless we start hitting traffic, in which case the strategist needs to get to work and see if they're losing too much time lapping cars rather than just getting the pit stop out of the way. So again, McDonald on a bit of a charge here, brought the gap down to under 0.4 of a second. But we'll see, again, the Mercedes will stretch that advantage by the time they get to the timing line with a smooth run.
Change on.
Yep, pit window is officially open for business, but the leaders carry on, as you would expect, trying to stretch the gap as much as possible for their, either for their bronze drivers, for the Pro-Am cars to take over, or for the the less experienced ones. But actually, yeah, Christian Mansell coming in early and opting to put Maxi Goertz in straight away. That's actually not so much of a surprise. And Tom Emson also bringing the elite car in as well to hand over to Tom Leben, the taller Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Maxi Goertz, a very useful pair of hands behind the wheel, and now they undergo the change at Motor Park in the 71 Mean Green machine. Mansell steps out and now helps Maxi Goertz hop into the car and zips him up with a belt. We also have Tom Leben stepping in for Tom Emson as well. Tommaso Mosca, of course, Ferrari now factory driver after the hardship of yesterday that saw him have a puncture after leading at the end of the first lap after a dazzling overtake on Alex Fontana. It came to an unceremonious end, their time at the top, but now back looking for redemption. And
it's a fresh set of Michelin boots going on all of these cars as well. It's a new compound for 2026, the H2 from Michelin, and a completely brand new compound on the rear, which is the H2 Plus,
Green
which
effective.
have been, yes, they've been made in a zero emission plant in France, which is great to see. And our partners at Michelin debuting that compound of tyre here this weekend in the International GT Open, which is great stuff. And a faster warm-up as well, so these drivers getting out onto the racetrack won't struggle quite so much when they get their cars up to speed and out of pit lane. So there goes Mosca out of pit lane. And look, Armani coming in at the end of this lap too, to hand over to Fontana.
Yeah, obviously a further note on the Michelin tyres. Obviously, we've been the first championship that we get to see the H2 Pluses in action as well, which is absolutely fantastic. We now see Alex Fontana stepping in for Pietro Armani, so just a lap later than when Mansell decided to come in and box and allow Maxi Goertz to take over proceedings. Fontana will now step into the Porsche. And after Armani's grand effort in the first stint, leaving obviously his teammate in a grand position at the moment. And Mettler and McDonald obviously still aligned together and still holding all the cards at the top. They'll do the mammoth portion of the stint in this race. We've still got 9 minutes and 20 left in the driver change period. So there's easily, I would say, 3, maybe 4 laps left in this, Chris?
Potentially more than that.
Maybe a 5.
Maybe 5. We'll see. So we've got Bash, Pla, Engelhardt, Mosca, and the like now on the track. Maxi Goertz is ahead of Tom Leben on the racetrack, so that's crucial. I think that Mansell was ahead of Empson anyway, wasn't he? So we've got Joel Monegro into pit lane, solo driver in the AM category, so no work to be done there. They shouldn't need a refuel either for a 60-minute race. It's just within the capabilities of a GT3 fuel tank. Also fresh boots going on the Good Speed team, which is growing. I remember it was a handful of people who were operating the car in their debut races a couple of years ago. Leaders making their way down the start-finish straight. They will start to come into some of that traffic. Just saw the Blackthorn Aston Martin with Enrique Chavez now at the wheel. Car started by Charles Bateman, that is not far in front of the leaders, but they won't catch him quite so quickly, I would have thought. We're coming up to half race distance, and it's 8 minutes left on the driver change window. And look at that, you've got Mosca in the middle of this fray, which is probably going to be so frustrating for Mosca. He probably feels he's going to be quicker than these guys. He wants clean air to try and gain some ground in this pit stop phase.
But they're absolutely not going to let him by.
No, absolutely, they don't have to. He's a lap down.
Absolutely right. So out of sync on two of our race leaders at the moment. Obviously, Mettler and McDonald still yet to pit, but obviously Mosca needs to make use of as much driving time as possible. Getting a lovely exit, though, out of Samsung. Will need to make use of it, though, heading up the hill through towards the blind right-hander, where they'll reach the precipice of Portimao before descending downhill. Just see they're slightly defensive-minded there from McDonald. I think, obviously, just taking... just aware with what Mosca's doing, heading back downhill again, and generally the next braking zone is an overtaking opportunity. Does Mosca risk it? He has a little look to the inside, but denied anyway. Sort of a half-hearted look nonetheless, just firing a warning shot against McDonald. Obviously this all about trying to effectively unlap himself. He will anyway when the front two come into box, but still very much an issue if he can't get that clean air.
You know, he's going to have to put up with this for another 6 minutes or so. Meanwhile, purple sectors coming in from Jim Pla and Maxi Goertz. Goertz doing the fastest lap of the race, a 41.9 from the Motor Park driver, the Mercedes factory driver, in the 71 machine having taken over from Christian Mansell. And so he has got about 17 seconds of clear air in front of him as well. He's the lead car at the moment that has done the mandatory stop. We've still got 15 cars that are due to come into pit lane in the next 6 minutes or so. And Mosca is going to get so frustrated here, looking at the back of this McLaren, about as frustrated as McDonald has been looking at the back of a Mercedes all weekend, I should suspect. And in fact, he's going to go for a maneuver. Now, he is entitled to do this. He thinks he's faster, but I don't think McDonald's going to like it very much.
No, not at all. Obviously, Dean McDonald, who spent a lot of his time trying to close up and tackle Yannick Mettler, he's now got a car in between that's throwing a complication in the works. Andre Borodin stepping in place of Ollie Webb, so a fairly early change on part of Ollie Webb, because now the AM out of the two will take over the wheel as they now fly up through towards the Portimao corner once more. This time Mosca hunting down after Mettler, which is proving, I think, for Mosca a little bit more of a problem.
We'll see. It's only had half a lap since passing McDonald, so probably get on the back of Mettler, and I wonder how Mettler will treat this. The gap to his class rivals is steadying a little bit. He's very nearly pulled 5 seconds over James Caldo, so that would negate his handicap.
Yeah.
And he's got more than 5 seconds over Vincent Abril. So this fascinating element in the Pro-Am Championship here is Alfredo Hernandez comes into box, another solo runner. You see the other Greystone McLaren with Andre Borodin just getting ready to...
McDonald's in.
Ready to go? Yes, he is.
He's
yes. So he's probably fed up of losing time and thinking, now Mosca's even done me, let's just get Meakin in the car, shall we? So Zach Meakin will climb aboard the 33, and they know that they should, in theory, be coming out in the lead.
Absolutely.
They're not worried about these other cars. They're worried more about Baumann and these other cars that have pitted. So they want to make sure they come out well clear of Maxi Goertz.
Well, Baumann still needs to box, obviously. And this does mean that they'll have a chance with fresh boots to head out with Zach Meekin, who
very
is
true.
a much improved driver from last year, as well as he continues to grow in the championship. So huge opportunity now for the the British-Ukrainian driver, who now steps into the car this time. There is the 51 of Tommaso Mosca. He's now, I think, managed to dodge past Yannick Mettler here this time, so that is him effectively unlapping himself and just looking to try and weave in some delta in order to try and recover at least something in this race. But bear in mind, obviously, Mettler still needs to box, in which case Dexter Muller will take over the wheel of that car. And of course, like you so rightly say, Chris, they've managed to build that gap to James Kell. In behind it will be Darren Kell, who hops in later on. We've got ISR Rowdy, who also making a change. Libor Milota stepping in place of Philippe Salakada. We then have the Baron Motorsport team, the Lewandowskis, swapping over this time. Andre Lewandowski now behind the wheel of the Lamborghini.
Yeah, so Mosca getting around Mettler cost Mettler about half a second, which is not too bad when you consider, actually. And now he can just get back onto the pace and re-establish that gap. So it's 4 seconds to James Kell. He's got 3 minutes to try and do something about that. It's going to be very, very tight between them. And after that, it will be down to the AM drivers. And of course, the advantage for Dexter Muller will be that he has raced here before.
Yeah.
And Darren Kell has only, this weekend's experience to go off of. And so Baumann did close about 0.6 of a second, actually, on Mettler on that previous lap. So the lead gap down to 2.9. He's got a bit more fresh air in front of him. That'll be the concern for the Greystone crew, who I think has come out ahead of Maxi Goetz. Yes, by about 7 seconds or so. So that's critical. That should, in theory, be the lead car in a couple of minutes' time.
Well, we'll now have to keep an eye on the lap times, the delta that Maxi Goetz pulls together, because currently it's registering 6.9 seconds, so nearly 7 seconds the gap between Meekin and Goetz at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on those deltas, folks, and see whether that Motorpark Mercedes closes at rapid pace, as we now see Yannick Mettler heading downhill. 2 minutes to go in terms of the driver change window, so I would imagine we'll probably see him come in maybe even on this lap. We'll see now. Angelo Fontana into the pit zone for ASF Motorsport here at their home race this weekend. And of course, also appearing in GT Cup Europe. They'll now look to swap over with Andre Fernandez taking the wheel, who has appeared in the GT3 Cup Portugal in the AM Championship back in 2022, Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, as well in 2025. Took part of the GT Winter Series this year as Mettler comes into the box after leading the way since the start.
Yep, so a minute and a half left. Everyone's going to have to come in now, so the top 9 cars are all going to have to come in on this lap. They don't have enough time to do another one. So, Dexter Muller, over to you for the remaining 25 minutes of this one. A mammoth stint here from Yannick Mettler in the lead in Pro-Am. The lead gap to Darren Kell, though, was 4.1 seconds, though. So in the track focus car should come out with the Pro-Am lead.
Chasing history. The Carvan by SBS are going to record a first win in Pro-Am. They're not going to be hindered too badly. But now looking to raise the stakes here in Portimao. Ramirez in the box as well. Kell, Demeus, Jaroslav Vasalo down in P5. He'll be swapping in. Of course, after Thomas Neubauer took the initial stint. And it was an impressive actual visit yesterday for Jaroslav Vasalo after qualifying. Managed to achieve a top 10. And then, of course, racing again in the afternoon, did extremely well and left the car then for Thomas Neubauer, who had an unfortunate incident with Yannick Mettler. Black Motorsport also now making changes. Marcello Hahn back again in the series, behind the wheel of the Ferrari now. And Osman stepping out.
Marcello Hahn, actually, most successful driver on this grid in terms of class wins. 9 times a winner in the Pro-Am Championship alongside Alam Kader. And that is Marcello Ramirez out behind Meekin, and Muller's going to come out behind Goetz. So Goetz has done a great job. I think he's now in a net 3rd place here. We'll get confirmation when they go over the next timing split. Potentially a net 4th, depending on where Darren Kell came out. There's Tom Leben ahead of the sister Ferrari from AF Corsa, so that's ahead of Jaroslav Visalaho. So down into turn 5. It is a 5.6 second lead for Zach Meekin over Marcello Ramirez and Maximilian Goetz. Muller has been able to hang on to the Pro-Am lead, though. And Darren Kell only just getting back out onto the racetrack, in fact.
So clearly he must have lost time in the pit stop.
He's down in fourth because, well, there's suddenly 10 seconds between Muller and Kell. And Muller was supposed to be stationary for 5 seconds longer. So some sort of drama for the track focus team. What a shame after James Kell's brilliant first stint. And so with the driver change window now officially closed, it's Zach Meakin who leads the way. He's extending his gap to Marcelo Ramirez, and Maxi Goertz will be on the back of him soon. It's Motor Park 2 and 3 at the moment. I can imagine there being a phone call saying don't hold up Maxi Goertz. And Dexter Muller leads in Pro-Am in fourth position. He's got 2 pro cars, Tom Leben and Jaroslav Visalaho, between himself and his class rivals, Laurent Demeas and Khalil Letlarka. Alex Fontana is in 9th position in the ZRS car. Enrique Chavez completing the top 10, the Blackthorn Aston Martin. Stanislav Jedlinski leads in the AM category for Olymp, with 3 pro drivers in the Pro-Am category between himself and Marcelo Hahn and Joel Monegro. This is the 2 Motorpark cars nip and tuck here through turn 4. Ramirez gaining experience, his 2nd year of GT racing, as that's Tom Leben trying to round up Dexter Muller there. But yeah, Ramirez not making it super easy for Goertz as the 2 teammates go side by side through Tora Vip. But that should now be 2nd place for the Mercedes factory driver. Well, Ramirez really isn't making it easy for him, is he? Getting his elbows out against one of the many coach-like drivers in the Motorpark squad. But eventually, Goertz finds his way through at turn 8.
Yeah, showing all his experience, Maxi Goertz. Of course, Mercedes driver. Now flying uphill through towards the right-hander. Now sits in 2nd place overall after that move. After Christian Mansell's opening stint, it's now the turn of Goertz. Marcelo Ramirez dropping back ever so slightly, 5/10 away.
We've got yellow flags out at turn 12, George, and yeah, this is probably why. Joel Monegro getting pitched round there by his class rival Andrei Lewandowski. And so that would have been for a position on the AM podium, I would have thought. Joel Monegro now down in 6th position in that category. And Lewandowski still running 3rd.
Yeah. So Zach Meakin still leads. There's quite a gulf, though, to be closed here for Goertz, 9.6. Obviously, it was relatively complicated with the Marcelo Ramirez battle, but nonetheless managed to get past his teammate.
Well, I'm curious to see now what the pace is between Goertz and Meakin. The gap is 9.6 seconds, but now Goertz is in clean air. He did lose a couple of seconds trying to get around Ramirez.
Meakin did make hay while the sun was shining, though, over that last lap. Of course, gained approximately 2 seconds alone against Goertz, which is a huge amount of time in the context of where they sit at this class level as well. Because, of course, Zach Meakin representing in pro class. Of course, Dean McDonald, we of course, recognise as being one of the sterling top forces in McLaren racing. Zach Meakin, obviously a young pretender to the throne, but now with every opportunity here to certainly deliver some success.
Now, in the Pro-Am category, we've got to keep our eye on Enrique Chavez, the number 97 Aston Martin from Blackthorn, because he has already moved up to 3rd position in class and is only 10 seconds behind the class leader, Dexter Muller. And now, the only thing is, there are 2 pro cars between Muller and Laurent Demeas in 2nd in that class, so it depends on how quickly those pro cars get around him, because Visalaho is already on the back of him here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the instant position that needs to be recognised is the fact that he's only 7/10 behind Laurent Demeas for Pro-Am 2nd at the moment. So that's the first hurdle that he has to jump. But
that should be relatively simple for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Laurent Demeas is the AM effectively in that Pro-Am exchange. Yes. Chavez the pro, and Chavez coming in as a former champion overall back in 2020 alongside Miguel Ramos, who has got a rich pedigree here in the International GT Open. Great to have him back as well, and behind the wheel of this Aston Martin, looking for big success here in Pro-Am class.
And I tell you, George, the last time an Aston Martin won in any category in this championship was 5 years ago at the Red Bull Ring in 2021. TF Sports, Sam Dehan and Charlie Eastwood.
Yeah.
So
we are making history.
Yeah, we could well be. Blackthorn would be taking their first victory in the class as well. Their debut weekend in the championship. Still a long way for that to go. 18.5 minutes left on the clock. In fact, Chavez has already gone through on Demir. So yeah, it was easy. And now he's just got to close the 4-second gap to Alex Fontana in 7th position. Maybe wait for the Procast to get rid of Muller and then fight him for the class lead. But this has been another really strong performance from the Carbahn team, fighting for victory in both races here this weekend. Muller in a very rich vein of form, and Vissela Ho is not exactly, you know, dispensing of him so quickly. He's doing a great job keeping that pro Ferrari at bay. This
is the experience of Dexter Muller being part of this championship now for so many years, and with a driver coach by the name of Yannick Mettler, it really does help. Obviously guiding Dexter every step of the way, and Dexter showing his promise here as well. It could have been a win yesterday in Pro-Am. It wasn't to be, but Redemption Day could be on hand. But of course, Vassallo chasing bigger things, looking for a P5 overall, because that's all he's worried about. And he might get his chance now heading down through the Gulf corner, but we know how proficient the Mercedes is heading downhill. He leaves a little bit of a doorway open down the inside. Of course, the Ferrari isn't going to chuck it down there, but maybe the long straight.
Change for the lead in AM, Marcelo Hahn for the Blau Motorsports AF Corsa crew now leads, having passed Stanislav Jedlinski. Lewandowski is second, Piotr Rivera in third now for the Goodspeed crew. So that could be a first podium for the Polish outfit as well. But Marcelo Hahn currently on course for victory on his return to the championship. Vissela Ho still looking at the back of the Pro-Am leader, and we should stress again, Vissela Ho, another young silver class driver making the switch from GT racing, from single seaters into GTs, sorry. Tom Leben now looking at the back of Marcelo Ramirez for a place on the podium. In fact, there is the move from Vissela Ho, so he takes 5th position overall now. Fontana, I imagine, will arrive up to the back of the Mercedes quite quickly. He is, I think, one of the fastest guys on track at the moment is the half-Greek driver.
Here comes Leben.
Oh, this is Leben going for the podium at the top of the hill into Portimao. Now, Ramirez didn't make it very easy for his teammate to get through. I doubt he will make it easy for Elite to get through either. Nice defensive driving there from the Mexican. And again, defensive into 13 as Leben tries to get around that Mercedes.
Yeah, Marcelo Ramirez now enjoying his time at the Motorpark stable. Of course, last year, spent a lot of time at Get Speed. Now looking ahead downhill once again with Leben in hot pursuit of the Ferrari 296. We'll take a look at the move here from Jaroslav Vassallo heading down in towards the inside. It looks like Dexter Muller just left it rather wide. He knows that's not his fight.
He let him go. He had the indicator on and everything. So that was a very clear instruction there. Please go around me as I continue my fight with Enrique Chavez.
I'd imagine
the gap between him and Chavez now down to 6 seconds, by the way. It was 10 seconds earlier.
And I'd imagine he'll probably give Fontana the same treatment as well.
Potentially.
Of course, he is closing up now, is Fontana.
I think you can't see Chavez yet in this shot, but I imagine when Muller does start seeing that yellow zebra Aston Martin in his mirrors, his attitude will change quite a bit.
Won't be so kind, I think, in that case. But now heading down towards Torovit, not allowing the Porsche through just yet, but Fontana not quite close enough. He may well be, though, after the hairpin now, and getting a lovely run, heading up through towards Samson Corner, the double right-hander that then sends you uphill, where the elevation changes once again and ascends upwards. And again, a little flash of the indicator again from Dexter Muller. So now they come over the crest, and once again we see Tom Leben fighting it out here with Marcelo Ramirez, P3 overall at stake. Ramirez really taking or giving Leben a really astonishing battle, a really astonishing fight, trying to defend his place. Obviously wants to stand on the overall podium in what could be a double Motorpark overall podium here if this continues, because Maxi Gert still holding on to that second. Here comes Leben now, a look up the inside as now they look to skirt their way through towards Sagre Corner, and a lovely little look. No, not quite able to do it. Marcelo Ramirez very nearly caught out.
There's traffic coming into play here, George, with the AF Motorsport Porsche. That could complicate matters for Marcelo Ramirez, who's doing a cracking job defending this place. Runs wide through the final corner, though. That's going to compromise his speed down the start and finish straight. Although it is getting a bit of a tow from the Porsche in front as well, which should just help him keep Emson at bay. And yep, going through the first corner. Has he been compromised on the exit? The door open for Tom Leben to come through at turn 3. The Briton has the door slammed in his face. As we see, Fontana has also gotten around Dexter Muller. So it's now line astern between the top 2 in Pro-Am. 3.6 seconds between them as Lebon still looking at the back of that Mercedes. Can he do Dandir on the brakes into the Toro VIP hairpin? He's certainly going for it. This is for the last spot on the podium. And Tom Lebon has gone through into 3rd place. But he's run very, very wide on the exit of the corner, though.
Yeah, we were talking about gaps as well for the top 2. Great move, by the way, for Tom Lebon. Now will appear on the overall podium should he pull this together. Marcelo Ramirez looking to gamble there. Here comes now Jaroslav Vasalo, who's looking to also gamble for a move here, potentially on Marcelo Ramirez, as we now see Alex Fontana sweep on by some back markers as well. So it's getting rather fierce here in the pro class. But Mikin, going back to what I was saying, last lap 1:43.5, I can tell you that Gertz was almost a whole second quicker over the last lap. So you never know, if he can keep this up, he may yet have an opportunity. This is the move here from Leben, just through the tightest of margins, threading the needle between the apex of the corner and Ramirez's Mercedes. It's the Ferrari 296 that goes through.
I don't know about that, though, George. Walked him straight off the racetrack. Well, and himself. So it's in a different postcode to the racetrack, to be honest. But we'll see what race control say about it. So it is Lebon in 3rd at the moment. Just rounding up the Olymp car. Fontana very much on the flasher, down the start and finish straight, making sure Stanislav Jeslinski is aware. So we got Jaroslav Visalaho now going for 4th position on Ramirez. Fontana maybe trying to make it a double podium for ZRS Motorsport across this weekend after victory yesterday. If he can usurp these 2 much less experienced drivers in front of him. Meanwhile, the Pro-Am battle. Oh, here comes Visalaho. Oh, has his nose chopped off there going into the Toro VIP hairpin. That's going to help Fontana bridge that gap even further. Yes, in Pro-Am, it is now just 1 second between Dexter Muller and Enrique Chavez. The pace very much with the Blackthorn Aston Martin at the moment, with 11 minutes to go in this race.
Yeah, it's getting very, very tight. Very volatile proceedings here in Pro class. But it looks like Leben, at least, does have that 1.6 second advantage over Ramirez, which will keep Vasalo at bay for now, should he get past, though. At the end of the day, it's one thing to be on the pace, but for Vasalo, he needs to get past Ramirez, as now we run on board with Tommaso Mosca, looking up the inside here on Enrique Chavez, which complicates the Pro-Am battle a little bit here.
That's great for Muller.
Yeah,
that's great for Muller because it's going to cost him a little bit of time. Now, obviously, Muller, you expect, is going to be passed by Mosca too. So Mosca up to 8th position now.
But he may not make it easy for him this time like he did the others. This is a different battle all of a sudden. This is the replay of Mosca's move up the inside of Enrique Chavez. Very attractive little overtake heading over the crest.
Worked better than yesterday's attempt into that corner, thankfully. So, Maxi Gertz lost 2 seconds to the race leader last time around. The gap now 12 seconds between himself and Zach Meakin.
If I'm not mistaken, that gap has doubled. Because I'm
pretty sure... 2 seconds.
Yeah, but even prior to that, it
was about 9 seconds before that.
Yeah, maybe that. But I even thought before that I don't know. Goodness me, it's still quite a vast gap, and Gertz has got it all to do now, and especially the last 10 minutes. I mean, he'd have to lap more than a second a lap, at the very least, in order to close that gap, and it's simply hard to happen, especially in a race like this.
But this is just the arrival of Zach Meakin, isn't it, really? Incredible stuff.
What growth from last year.
Yeah, incredible. This won't be his first GT3 win, sadly, but he because they won the 6 Hours of Portimao. So he knows this track incredibly well at this point, knows how to go quickly around here, but will be a first victory in the International GT Open for Zach Meakin.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Only 19 years of age.
Oh, this is getting tight now, Josh, because they're trying to round up the Andre Borodin Greystone McLaren as well. So Ramirez and Visalaho and Fontana, Mercedes, Ferrari and Porsche all line astern, battling over 4th position. It's a lunge on the inside from Visalaho going into turn 13. Ramirez, I don't think he can fight that one too much unless he can stick it back up the inside into the penultimate corner, and he does, and he spins the Ukrainian round. Fontana takes both of them up into 4th position now for the ZRS crew. Visalaho pitches it back round and gets going again. But that is an unfortunate end to what had been a great drive for Ramirez up until this point.
Yeah.
But just walked it in a little wide.
Yeah, unfortunately so, making contact with Yaroslav Vasalo, who equally was giving a grand performance here so far. They're clubbing back together, though. We're going 3 abreast now, heading down in towards the first corner. Here comes Mosca, though, up the inside of Dexter Muller now, as he looks to pounce and move on up into 6th place and has made the move stick. So there we have it. Yet more coverage here for Enrique Chavez to now close up to the back. The car, the buffer in between, has now disappeared once more.
Yeah, so they're now line astern on the road once again, with Mosca making that move. So Mosca up into 6th position and now trying to take 5th from Ramirez, and then the Pro-Am leaders right next to each other as well. Look, there they all are.
There's Chavez.
There's Chavez in the yellow zebra, or bumblebee, as Charles Bateman's boy likes to call it. So we've got 2 great battles for 5th position overall and for the Pro-Am lead in the final 7.5 minutes of this race. Mosca running it very, very wide, trying every trick in the book to get around Ramirez, and very nearly running into the back of the motor park car at the apex of turn number 8. Now, he's already made one move up at the top of the hill at Portimao. Will he make another one? No, he will not. Widens the entry of the corner very nicely to get himself the run. And I will say that Muller and Chavez are doing very well to hang on to this one. Chavez not walking up to the back of Muller quite as quickly as I would have anticipated. But I'm sure now that for the last 7 minutes, Muller's going to be under big, big pressure. Let's see how it works out. We've got Mercedes, Ferrari and Aston Martin in this battle as well. So the big thumping V8 at the front of the Mercedes, the turbocharged V8 in the Aston Martin, the twin turbo V6 in the Ferrari. This is them getting around Andre Borodin, which opened up the door for Mosca to go through on Dexter Muller at the start of the lap into turn 1. And now going down the start and finish straight, no look from Mosca, but I imagine there will be a chance for the Ferrari factory driver into the Toro VIP hairpin, equally for Chavez going through on Muller. But those 4 cars, oh, somebody... Oh, no! Muller round from the lead in Pro-Am, and it's an open door for Enrique Chavez and Blackthorn to go through into the lead of that class, and now on course for their first victory in the International GT Open.
Here comes
Down
Mosca.
the inside goes Mosca for 5th position on Marcello Hahn, and usurps the motor park driver on the exit of turn 5.
Again, heartbreak in the dying moments of a race. It happened yesterday after after Yannick Meckler even was in contact with Thomas Neubauer. It's now happened with 6 minutes to go, this time with Dexter Muller spinning it around turn 3. We're talking the same portion of racetrack as well here, Chris.
Yeah.
The exact same portion as yesterday's moment that cost them the Pro-Am win there too.
I remember in Barcelona a couple of seasons ago when he was fighting with Hash.
Yes.
Car collection for the win there, and he ended up having a looping moment. But what a shame for Dexter Muller. He is still 2nd, but he's got Jim Pla right on his tail now, so may well lose that. So it could be a podium still. We're going to see the moment again, but just a little bit wide into 3 and did very well.
Yeah.
Actually, Chavez took good avoiding action.
Yeah, very close.
Just spotted the gap to
Narrowest
get
of
through
margins.
and not get sideswiped by the Mercedes. And so Blackthorn now on course for their first victory in the championship on their debut weekend.
Yeah, it's a great move for Mosca as well to get the move done, heading into Toro VIP. And now looking to give chase to Fontana, but there's a lot of work to do. 3.3 seconds for the Ferrari. Fontana in the Porsche, very busy with Tom Ledman, but again, the gaps are quite vast in amongst the top 5. And once again, Meekin really starting to consolidate his place at the top. Just look at these laps, 142.7. They're both lapping relatively similar now, but Meekin slightly better where it matters, and it's 12.5 seconds now in front.
Well, Dean McDonald, after qualifying on pole position, said he wanted a boring race. It's actually Zach Meekin who's got the boring stint here,
Dean
isn't
had
it?
the
Because he's
busiest
just driving off into the distance. And there is Dean on the left-hand side. I'm sure there'll be a smile eventually, maybe in about 4 minutes' time, as Meekin is bringing this one home very nicely right now. And what we're seeing, we wanted to see how these young guns from last year were going to do with a lap of experience, sorry, a year of experience, under their belts. And we're seeing that come to the fore right now. Zach Meekin turning into a real talent here.
2 young drivers in one weekend taking a victory. Obviously, Amani now moving into the International GT Open for the first time, landing and taking the checkered flag. This time it will be Zach Meekin, should he have a clean complete run in the final 3.5 minutes, he will in turn take the checkered flag, which would see McLaren 720S GT3 on top of a GT Open podium for the first time this season here in overall. And now taking the next right-hander. Tom Leben also elite and not out of this at all. They could be on hand to achieving a podium here this afternoon too.
Another change for the lead in AM, by the way, while we've been watching all this. It's Andrei Lewandowski who's taking it back, and so Baron Motorsport could make it back-to-back victories in the AM category, which is very impressive indeed. Mosca making his way through some of the backmarker traffic. The two AM cars either side of him at the moment. In 5th position at the moment is the 51. I'm sure not the weekend that of course, we're expecting to have with this car.
Muller might be seeing his podium slip through as well. Carol Bash, remember, of course, a very fast driver, as we now see.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. We got Hernandez there meeting with Mosca. So doesn't want to get too tied up in all of this, as we now see the cars further back. There's Enrique Chavez. Climbing the hill in full pursuit of Marcelo Ramirez. Jaroslav Vassallo, of course, further back as well. They now look to ascend up through Samsung. Enrique Chavez just trying to keep the Ferrari behind at bay. Not that it necessarily is his fight. His fight is pretty much done, really, as far as the Pro-Am is concerned, sitting at the top with 7 seconds ahead of Jim Ply. In fact, you make that 7.3 plus.
So another great intermark battle here. Mercedes, Aston, Ferrari. And that has been one of the compliments of the new Michelin rubber for this year.
Yeah.
Very much more even performance across the manufacturers. 2 laps to go for Zach Meekin, and he will be a race winner in the International GT Open. It will be a 4th victory for Dean McDonald and the Greystone team, but we will add another new winner to the rostrum and another new team in Pro-Am as well as it stands. Just keeping an eye out on that Dexter Mulligap and Carol Bash battle that you were talking about there, George. It's 2.7 seconds at the moment.
Yeah, of course, Portimao has become rather a favoured home for Zach Meekin, winner of the 6 hours of Portimao earlier this year. So he's come back to hallowed ground. That has certainly paid dividends for him. You know, he's about to celebrate another victory as well with a minute to go. And indeed, there is still battles across the top end. Carol Bash, we know how quick he is, still chasing after Dexter Muller. But, of course, I think the clock is going to be against him. Chavez has got past Ramirez. And we'll take a look. Oh, it looks like it happened here. In fact, contact between Vassallo and Ramirez on the run-up out of turn 3 through turn 4. Ramirez just about holding on, but that doesn't stop the contact between them.
No, it doesn't. So that's Ramirez 7th, Vassallo still 8th. It's Alex Fontana. Just going to miss out on the podium here by the looks of it. 2 seconds behind Tom Lebon. But still, what a heck of a weekend for ZRS Motorsport.
Yeah, huge.
Almighty performance throughout the whole weekend, and looking forward to seeing this outfit growing in confidence and ability as they get more experience with the GT3R, the brand new Evo version for this year. Lapping quicker at the moment is Alex Fontana than Tom Lebon, but we're now on to the final lap of the race, so opportunities running very thin for Fontana to make it 2 podium finishes for the Italian crew. Oh, more dramas here between Vassallo and Ramirez, and this time Ramirez ends up facing the wrong way at the penultimate corner, and Vassallo was not leaving much space there for the Mercedes, but that has dropped Ramirez outside of the top 10, I'm afraid. So a disappointing end to what was a strong drive for the Mexican. Meanwhile, it is 1.7 seconds between Muller and Bash for the last spot on the Pro-Am podium. I'm sure that's going to go right down to the wire. But let's stop, stand up and celebrate this young man, Zach Meekin, on his way to his first victory in the International GT Open. Dean McDonald put it on pole position, did the first stint, was staring at the back of Yannick Mettler for an awful lot of it, but Zach Meekin growing in confidence, growing in speed, growing in ability, and he's about to take his first victory in the championship. It will be a 4th for Greystone and Dean McDonald, But the Championship Challenge starts here for Greystone. Zach Meakin takes his first victory in the International GT Open alongside Dean McDonald, and Greystone on top at the end of the first weekend of 2026.
Back-to-back podiums as well for Motor Park, and the combination of Gertz and, of course, Mansell, but it's Zach Meakin and Dean McDonald, your victors here today. Tom Levin now across the line, will come across the line in third indeed, alongside Tom Empson. Back on the podium, Elite Motorsport Ferrari, with Fontana off the back of the race win from yesterday. Big points earned this weekend in Portimao.
Yep. First podium of the season for Elite Motorsport. Blackthorn Racing take their first victory in the Pro-Am standings. Charles Bateman and Enrique Chavez on top in race 2 in Portimao. Welcome to the International GT Open. Dexter Muller will just hang on to the podium in the car barn. Raceworks by SBS Mercedes. Just about denies Carol Bash in the Olymp Ferrari. So that is back-to-back podiums as well for the 54 crew, as well as Santalog with Jim Pla in second place. One better than they managed yesterday. And we wait for Andrei Lewandowski to come across the line for Baron Motorsport to make it back-to-back victories in the AM Championship. A perfect weekend to start off 2026 for them. Piotr Vera has already come across the line to take Good Speed Racing's first ever podium in any competition, I believe. Certainly in the International GT Open. That'll be the last two cars over the line, will his fellow podium finishers, Lewandowski and then Marcelo Hahn, will also make that back-to-back podium finishes. There's Lewandowski over the line now. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Well done to Blackthorn Racing as well. First victory for them, for Charles Bateman, for Enrique Chavez. Chavez making it his first victory in the Pro-Am Championship, but his fourth victory in GT Open competition. We add another new name to the list in terms of Blackthorn and Charles Bateman. Oh, now, George, last lap dramas in AM, because our timing screen is now saying that Marcelo Hahn has taken the victory for Blau Motorsport.
Interesting.
Less than half a second ahead of Lewandowski, so I wonder what happened there. I don't think there were any penalties that we needed to take into account for Baron, and so that is a last lap drama there, with Blau Motorsport just coming out on top in that one, and so they take their first victory in the AM category as well. Let's go through the full list. Zach Meakin takes his first victory in the International GT Open alongside Dean McDonald for the Greystone team. 12 seconds clear in the end of Christian Mansell and Maxi Gertz. And the Toms complete the podium for the first time this season. Pietro Armani and Alex Fontana just missing out on the podium, with Rafael Duran and Tommaso Mosca completing the top 5. It's a first Pro-Am victory for Blackthorn Racing, Enrique Chavez and Charles Bateman, ahead of the 96 AF Corsa of Wieselaho and Neubauer, with Michael Blanchemont and Jim Pla alongside Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler making it back-to-back podiums in the Pro-Am Championship. Marcin Jedlinski and Karol Bash completing the top 10. And then in the AM category, last lap dramas as Marcelo Hahn and Galid Osman take their first victory together in the AM category for AF Corsa. The Lewandowskis and Piotr Vera completing the podium. Good Speed Racing take their first ever podium finish in the championship. Further down, Joel Monegro just missing out on the podium, with AF Motorsports in 22nd, Borodin and Webb behind them. Stanislav Jedlinski in 24th, and Alfredo Hernandez not making the checkered flag in the end. Brought that car into the pits early, but the celebrations in Parc Fermé will commence shortly. Zach Meakin taking in the moment, it seems.
Well, I mean, this is a driver that first stepped into the GT Open back in 2024, already making one appearance really back then, and then a longer stint the following year. And it's set to be what could be a successful stint. It is a bit warm out there,
yes,
it has to be said. So
jolly warm.
Understandable. And of course, if you're Dean McDonald all the way from Cowdenbeath in Scotland, it gets very cold up in the Highlands. And the 25-year-old probably, with temperatures such as this, it's unheard of for him. But of course, he does do his fair share of travelling with motorsport championships. But well done to these two. Miraculous job. And obviously off the back of the difficulties from last year, of course, Dean McDonald, he must have been wondering what kind of mirror they broke last year to certainly suffer the way they did in subsequent races. But this is a much better place to be, obviously, with the position they're now featuring inside the championship. And obviously with Spa up next, remember, we've got the double point scenario with the GT Open 500 race for the first time this campaign.
First podium of the season for Tom Empson and Tom Leben at Elite Motorsport. It's back-to-back second-place finishes for Maxi Goetz and Christian Mansell over at Team Motorpark. Couldn't ask for a much stronger maiden weekend in the championship. But the winners, for the first time this season, Zach Meakin and Dean McDonald from Greystone.
In here. So, race 2 at the Algarve, and a superb win for the Greystone GT McLaren. Dean McDonald, Zach Meakin. This morning you looked confident, and you were right.
Yeah, but the race wasn't as smooth as we hoped. But it was still a very good race. You know, the Greystone guys gave us a very fast McLaren this weekend, so obviously a big thank you to them. And Zach did an amazing job all weekend as well. And to bring it home for us on Sunday was, yeah, it was nice.
And Zach, this is your first time here, so you must be quite happy.
It's my first time with Greystone, and from what I can say so far, they've been doing an absolutely amazing job. It's been really good. I'm great. I'm with them, and thank you to Little Dean as well for doing his job well and giving me a smooth ride home. Thank you.
Good, and I'm sure we will see each other again soon. Well done, guys. Enjoy.
Well, Dean McDonald started from pole position in the Greystone McLaren, just fending off Yannick Mettler for the first few corners. James Kell was making moves around the outside in his track-focused McLaren, trying to get around, first of all, the Pietro Armani Porsche and then the Motorpark Mercedes of Christian Mansell. He gave it a good effort, and Mansell was just able to fend off the Briton. Cars very safely through the first couple of corners, but it was a monster run from Yannick Mettler on the second lap of the race, around the outside at the Toro VIP hairpin under braking, and he took an early lead from Dean McDonald. Motorpark car trying to throw its nose into the ring, but from second place, McDonald would hand over the car to Zach Meakin, knowing they were going to jump the handicapped Mercedes in front of them. Motorpark cars going side by side with the Maxi Goetz car moving around Marcelo Ramirez. And then Tom Leben making this move on Ramirez for a spot on the podium. Unfortunately, it would all come undone for Ramirez. First of all, with this contact with Visa Laho. And then later contact as well. Dramas in Pro-Am. Dexter Muller spilling from the lead, giving it to Blackthorn. Mosca making his way up the order as well, passing Ramirez. Zach Meakin, not knowing any of it at the front of the field, he took his first victory in the International GT Open, a fourth for Greystone and Dean McDonald. And they end the first weekend of the season on top. And so to the podium. Tom Empson will collect yet another podium trophy alongside Tom Lebon. As, back-to-back second-place finishes for the 71 Team Motorpark crew. Here is Zach Meakin. Only his second time, I believe, on the top step of the podium in GT3 competition. Dean McDonald getting used to this view, though, I would say. So the Greystone representative on the podium as well. And so for the victory will be the British national anthem.
Salva de palmas para as primeiras.
A great day for Greystone. It wasn't that long ago where they were so proud of their ability to field a pro car in this championship and to be fighting for top honours. Those first victories that came through was a big moment for them, and now here they are, championship contenders once again.
Yeah, I think definitely as far as Greystone are concerned, they've started very promisingly. I honestly think Motor Park are in a very good place as well. I mean, back-to-back sequences of results here from Maxi Goertz and Christian Mansell standing tall on the podium, and tell you what a visit as well for Elite Motorsport after what was, maybe not the best of qualifying sessions, but they managed to convert a wonderful result here today. And obviously they're well placed now as we head to Spa next for our first GT Open 500 race.
Yes, and my mental arithmetic puts Greystone at the head of the championship by 1 point to Mansell and Goertz after their back-to-back second place finishes. So very tight still after the first weekend of racing. Lots to look forward to.
We've not seen the best from that Motor Park lineup quite yet, I don't think. So give it time, but they've definitely made a very strong start.
Well, the champagne will flow for our top 3 finishers in the second race here in the Algarve, and well-deserved too. And just like how many youngsters we've got in that field, the Toms, Christian, Zach. No disrespect to Dean McDonald, though, 25 years old. I'm not calling him old or anything.
He's definitely not old, Chris.
Much more experienced,
He's a lot younger than me.
That's
I give that to him. But hey, listen, great job by both drivers. Obviously, we've got the Pro-Am podium coming up next. Enrique Chavez, once again standing tall on a GT Open podium. We hark back to the 2020 championship success alongside Miguel Ramos. And obviously, we do wish Miguel Ramos well, wherever he may be. Obviously, great to have him back in the championship last year. But yeah, Dexter Muller, Yannick Mettler on P3, still happy nonetheless. But obviously, again, what could have been? Turn 3 has not been their friend this weekend.
No, it has not. Still great to see the smiles, though, on the SBS crew. I think it doesn't matter where Dexter Muller finishes. He just loves his racing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And great weekend again from Saint-Aloc. Back-to-back podium finishes for Michael Blanchimont and Jim Pla. That is proving to be a very strong combination once again. But chapeau to Blackthorn Racing. We had another new name to the winners rostrum for the Blackthorn crew, and for Charles Bateman as well, his first victory in the championship. Enrique Chavez, in addition to his 3 overall victories, now a class victor as well. And it won't be Chavez doing the majority of the driving with Charles Bateman. It will be Johnny Adam. But Johnny preoccupied this weekend over in Imola. So we look forward to seeing Chavez back out later in the season, we expect.
Another strong Scottish driver in Johnny Adam, obviously from Kirkcaldy in Scotland, 41 years of age, and has won his fair share of championships, British GT as well, most notably. But I mean, for Bateman, 10-year absence away from racing. And now, once again, standing on the top step of a podium.
Dipped his toe back into it at the start of last year, didn't he, when he was still a silver class driver, but now as a bronze-rated driver for this year, finding his home, I should suspect. We know the abilities of Blackthorn from other championships, but again, great to have them with us as well. Now, move on to the AM Championship, and George, some breaking news we've got from the stewards' room.
Yes, it turns out there was a 5-second time penalty issued to Andrei Lewandowski towards the very end of the race. So, and apparently they reckon it was between car 12, Joel Monegro Reyes.
So when Lewandowski's pitched round Joel Monegro, which I think we suspected there might be a penalty coming in, but I don't think we ever saw it on the screen. So apologies for missing that one. And big thanks to former GT Sport race director Neas Santamaria, who has sent us that information and clearly has got more eyes than we do. Much more used to looking out for that kind of information. So thank you for that one. Hope you've been enjoying the show. To the podium then, Piotr Vera. Oh, Thomas McJosh must be kicking himself for not racing this weekend, but well done to Goodspeed Racing. First podium for them. The Lewandowskis, after a victory yesterday, just missing out by a few tenths of a second. It was half a second difference that the 5-second penalty separated them at in the end. But it is Marcelo Hahn with a 10th class victory, his first in the AM category. And after 18 years of racing with Alam Kader, now with Galid Osman in this championship. still on the top step of the podium, which is great to see. Galid Osman, I think, taking his first class victory in this championship as well. So, again.
No stranger to championships, though. He did take the TCR Brazil Championship back in 2023, the Formula Sao Paulo champion in 2005. But has mainly spent a lot of time with touring cars and stock cars.
Yeah.
But GT3 clearly working for him based on what we're seeing today.
Well, we've had the appetizer, and in a few weeks' time, we have our first 500-kilometer race at Spa-Francorchamps. Double points on offer on the 16th and 17th of May. That's all from Portimao. We'll see you at Spa.